Hello and welcome everybody to the Regional Community Childcare Development Fund supported professional learning about implementing positive behaviour support in early childhood. This is Phase 1, Module 2, What is Positive Behaviour Support? We're very grateful for the support of the State Government's Royalties for Regions program and the Department for Communities for being able to implement this training for positive behaviour support. This module is the second module of the 5 modules on day 1, phase 1, and it's an introduction to positive behaviour support. After this module, we'll get into the nitty-gritty of how we actually do positive behaviour support, but first this is an introductory module. I'd like to start with acknowledging the resources that are available for you, of which we have used to put together this presentation. Some really fantastic websites here: Challenging Behaviour, Vanderbilt, which is where a lot of the pyramid model resources will be found. The pyramid model is the name given to positive behaviour support in early childhood. ECMHC and PBIS.org are fantastic treasure troves of resources for implementing positive behaviour support, and I encourage you to check them out. The implementation of positive behaviour support is relevant to the NQS standards, particularly Standard 5, relationships with children. So some of the things we're going to discuss in this module you can use in your assessment, particularly in your statement of philosophy that guides your interactions with children. There'll be an activity towards the end of this presentation where you're able to consider your philosophy and whether you would like to include elements of positive behaviour support within it. And also in positive behaviour support, we deliberately design our environments, the experiences and the routines we have to maximise opportunities for kids to be successful and maximise opportunities for kids to have positive interactions with adults. So that's implementing positive behaviour support can help you get to exceeding on that standard, because you'll be able to demonstrate how you're deliberately setting up your experiences and routines to be consistent with this standard. So what is positive behaviour support? It has many, many different names. The formal name is Positive Behavioural Interventions and Supports, or PBIS, but it's also been called many of these things that are down the side here: effective behaviour support, positive behaviour support, school-wide positive behaviour support or interventions and supports, and positive behaviour for learning. Many, many other names that you can give to it. This model in here shows the logic of positive behaviour support which is consistent with the World Health Organization's population health promotion model, where we have good promotion of health, and in this case behavioural health, for everybody in our society, and then we add additional supports to those who need more supports. But we start off with this foundation of having strong interventions for everyone in our services. This is the logic model of implementing positive behaviour support. We all want the best outcomes for children and young people. In order to get those outcomes, what is effective is if we use data to work out what our problems are and how to solve them, use evidence-based practices when we're working with children, so not just the latest fad thing, but things that have been found in research to actually work and make a difference, and then fundamentally that we invest in systems that support our adults to do those things. It's a really critical part of positive behaviour support that we help our adults to be successful with implementing. These are some of the gentlemen who are responsible for being the key architects of positive behavioural interventions and supports. They all started out as classroom teachers and really identify as being teachers, and that's the primary lens that we take in positive behavioural support, is we're teachers trying to teach kids and help them be more successful. They're very, very generous with all their materials, and we're really grateful for the way that they share everything at pbis.org. So we recommend that you go and get involved in some of those materials, because there's great resources there shared for free. So what is positive behaviour support? It has many, many different definitions, but the ones that I like is that it's the application of behavioural science in services for all children. So not just children who demonstrate high needs, but all kids get to benefit from services using behavioural science to inform what they do. I also like to think that positive behavioural support is a way of getting organised about behaviour and treating behaviour like everything else that we teach children. We assess their level of knowledge, we plan what we're going to teach them, we teach them explicitly, and we assess their post knowledge and then repeat that cycle again. So we treat behaviour just like we treat literacy, just like we teach maths, just like we teach anything else. It's another thing that we teach our children so that they can be really successful in their social behaviour skills. This is the PBIS continuum and how it the practices of positive behaviour support fit with this continuum. So we start down the bottom with the environments that we design for all children. We want all children to come into environments where they have positive relationships, that are supportive, where we've defined the behaviours we want them to do, taught them how to do it, and encouraged them when they have success in their social behaviours. So we want to work out what do we want kids to do and teach them how to do it. When we do that for every single child, most of our kids will actually get it right. If we do those things and we do them with a strong enough intensity, most of our kids will achieve social and behavioural success. But going up the triangle, there'll be some kids who, even if we have that good stuff in place, they'll still need a bit of extra social and emotional teaching strategies that we may provide in a small group or a structured format. And then there are some children in our environments who, even if we have a fantastic environment with clearly defined and taught and encouraged behaviours, they're still going to need individual support plans. And so for those children with persistent challenges, we have some really structured interventions that we will be showing you how to provide for different children. So the focus of phase 1 is down the bottom, things that we do for all children. And the focus of most of phase 2 is also things that we do for all children with an emphasis on how we respond to behaviour. And then the focus of phase 3 is what do we do for those kids who need some additional supports. So positive behaviour is for all kids, then adding some more supports for those kids who really need it to be successful. But we've got to start with a foundation of getting it right for all kids first. The starting point for PBS is that we cannot make kids learn, we cannot make kids behave. We cannot force children to learn or behave in our services. But good news, we can create environments that increase the likelihood that kids are going to learn and behave. And that's a much, much more positive lens to take. Instead of trying to change children, we're trying to change our environments so that they support kids in the best possible way. What has been learned in 30 plus years of research into environments that work really well for kids is that environments that work really well, environments that increase the likelihood of kids having social success as well as academic success, are guided by a core curriculum. So if we want our kids to have academic success, we teach them a really good academic curriculum. If we want our kids to have social and behavioural success, we need a core social and behavioural curriculum. We will talk to you a lot more about how to develop that in particular the next slide, which is about defining, the next module, which is about defining behaviours. So we need a social behaviour curriculum, and then we need everybody in our service to implement that with consistency and fidelity. So we need to spend time on our adults, helping our adults to teach kids the same behaviours, that's a good start, and to teach kids consistently. So we need to spend a lot of time helping our adults, because if our adults are doing the teaching with consistency and fidelity, our kids are most likely to be successful in their social and behavioural skills as well as their academic skills. So what is positive behaviour support? Getting into the detail now. Positive behaviour support is getting all of the adults in our service to firstly work out what do we want kids to do? How do we want kids to behave in our service? And to get all of the adults to have the same expectations of kids. This actually takes quite a lot of time because we don't often talk about behaviour expectations until we make the space to do so in positive behaviour support. So for example, Do we use running feet or walking feet inside? People might have different ideas about what's okay and what's not. People in your service might have different ideas about when we wear shoes and where we don't wear shoes. And getting all of the adults to be on the same page and have the same consistent expectations is a really important part of the work of positive behaviour support. Once we have invested that time in defining what we want children to do and we've got everybody having the same expectations, then we need to teach the children to do those behaviours. And we need to teach them not just once, and we need to not just tell them, but we need to teach them in lots of different ways. So we will have formal lessons on how to walk on the veranda. We'll have formal lessons on how to sit school way during a mat time lesson. We'll have formal lessons on how to flush the toilet and wash your hands afterwards, so that kids can be successful because they have an adult teaching them how to do those things rather than just telling them. When kids are successful in their behaviour, we really want to acknowledge that. We do a great job as educators of acknowledging kids when they get academic content right. So when kids, for example, write their name using a capital letter at the start of their name, educators are fantastic at saying, hey, well done, you wrote your name, you went from left to right and got a capital at the start there, that's fantastic. We want to use the same kind of language and the same kind of approach when kids experience behavioural success. So, hey, I saw you slow it down from a run to a walk when you hit the veranda. Well done. I noticed that. Great self-control. Thanks for being respectful. So we'll use that positive, specific feedback about kids' behaviour and about kids' social skills. When kids make behaviour errors, which they will, we respond by reteaching. So instead of having a punishment lens, which is the child's done the wrong behaviour, so we're going to physically or emotionally hurt them in some way, we're going to have a teaching lens, which is we'll get you to practice the skill that you did wrong, but we'll help you practice it correctly. So for example, the traditional model of responding when a child does a behaviour error like running on the veranda would be to say, stop, we don't run on the veranda, you need to sit down and miss out on a minute worth of playtime. What we would recommend in positive behaviour support is you can still comment on still correct the error. So, hey, stop, we don't run on the veranda, we walk on the veranda. What I want you to do is take it back 10 steps and I want you to show me walking on the veranda. That's it, that's much better. We walk on the veranda, that's how you do it. Give me a high five, all right, go about your day. So we still correct errors, but we correct them with a this is what I want you to do instead lens. When we do those things and we do it consistently with all of the adults in our service having the same expectations and responding in consistent ways, most kids will get it right, but we've got additional supports that we can provide to those kids who need it most. And decision rules about which kids do we choose to get extra support? How do we make sure that's fair? And how do we make sure it's efficient so that our kids get the early intervention that they need? So this is the activity that is on your handout. This slide shows the logic of positive behaviour support. So Tier 1 is our primary prevention, and that is for 100% for all children. We want to do these things that support all kids to be successful. Then we will add some Tier 2 specialised systems for kids with at-risk behaviour. For about 15% of our kids, we'll add some extra support. And then we will, if that is not enough for kids to be successful, then we can add some Tier 3, some specialised, highly individualised systems for kids with high risk behaviour, and that we can do for about 15%, that's incorrect, about 5% of our children only, simply because it takes so much time. If we find that we have more than about 5% of our kids who need highly individualised supports, that means that we need to make our universal systems, the things we do for all kids, we need to make that stronger. We need to teach more frequently. We need to encourage with more intensity. We need to reteach more often in order that more of our kids will be successful with the things that we do for all children. So I'd like you to pause the video for a little bit here now, and I'll give you the opportunity to fill in the handout that goes along with this module with the Tier 1, Tier 2 and Tier 3 systems and what percentage of the population they are for.